We are better than the worst thing we have ever done. Sister Helen Pregine, who has walked death row with many people, this is her quote. I have railed against this parable for 2 weeks, sat in judgment of the manager, found myself in awe of his clever resourcefulness when faced with being fired, and wondered what Jesus was saying to the children of light in that time and to us. I have been perplexed at how it all ties together with being faithful and serving God. And then I remember Jesus is telling the story. Jesus, the one who eats with sinners, touches the untouchable, triumphantly rides into Jerusalem on a donkey, and transforms the image of the cross from an instrument of torture and shame into a symbol of the resurrected life and hope. The Jesus who turns all our ideas, our lives upside down. It's very easy for us to domesticate him, to forget how subversive he was to the people and authorities of his time and should be to us. In this parable, he really shakes up our thinking about others, about God, and about ourselves. We can easily wrap our head around the rich man's reaction when he hears the rumors that his manager is squandering his resources. We don't like to be taken advantage of or have our resources foolishly wasted by another. And we do not know what he did to squander the rich man's assets. It follows the story of the prodigal son who squandered his inheritance on dissolute living, so we can suspect it is something similar. Calling the manager to account for himself, and in the same breath telling him that you can no longer be my manager, the rich man turns the manager's world upside down. Called to account for his actions and faced with losing his position, the realization comes just how limited he is. He isn't physically strong enough to do manual labor, and he has way too much pride to beg. There must be some way to ensure he won't become a social outcast, looked down upon by others. The one gift the manager has is street smarts. He's shrewd. He knows his constituents. He calls the debtors, reduces their debt, ensures their indebtedness to him, and makes the rich man look like a generous man instead of a fool. Socially, they all win. To top it all off, the manager is commended for being shrewd. I don't know about you, but I'm reeling in disbelief. Seriously, he should get his just deserves. Instead, he is being redeemed and maintains his social status. He will be invited and warmly received into others' homes. And then I remember once again, it's Jesus talking here. He tells a parable, and we are going to be challenged. Our worldview will be turned upside down, inside out. He is always inviting us into an uncomfortable place of a different understanding, inviting us to see as God sees. But I'm still struggling. Often we want to see situations like this as black and white, according to the laws of the world. We want others to be punished or suffer the consequences of their actions. Just like the older brother in the story of the prodigal son, we don't want to accept him. We hold on to and nurse our resentments, holding ourselves hostage by our own emotions. As the rich man commends the manager for acting shrewdly, we are challenged in hearing Jesus say, "For the children of this age are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than are the children of light." And then he says, "I tell you." And when he says, "I tell you," something's coming. In essence, it boils down to be wise. Use both your brain and your heart. Grow in wisdom as you grow in love. Walk faithfully. Often it is the very people whose behavior infuriates us or distresses us who have something to teach us. They often possess the very skill that we realize that we lack, and then we realize that we do need them, and that God loves them just as much as God loves us. And our private world order is turned upside down or right side up, depending on the perspective. So take a moment to remember your most grievous mistake. And perhaps you've been called to account for it, and perhaps you have not. But when it goes public, in those moments, we privately hope that others will be gracious, have mercy, and maybe even forgive us, even though we've screwed up. In this case, if we're honest, we may be jealous of the manager's ability to turn the situation around. And in that turning around, he is being faithful. And he actually is being a good manager in the end. Like the father in the prodigal son, God loves every person equally as a son or a daughter, forgives all, is constantly on the lookout for us, waiting to embrace and rejoice in our return after we've wandered away and squandered our inheritance. God is anxiously waiting to redeem our failings and love us as no other. And sometimes, oftentimes, we struggle with understanding and comprehending such unconditional love. We are better than the worst thing we have ever done. Amen.